The first shot of the urban location immediately connotes the social class of the characters in the narrative, i.e., the working class, and depicts the stereotypical ideology that people in the working class live in these environments. In addition, our audience are keen in investigating social issues. This shot and the second shot connotes the deprivation and isolation experienced by the protagonist, Ethan, with panning to connote its far-reaching effects and the severity of these experiences, but it also connotes a desire to escape the constraints of his upbringing and rejection. The long shot of Ethan walking into the modern train station singles him out and connotes how he is adrift and isolated, seeking a way out of his awful situation. But our sophisticated primary audience would be less likely to accept this hegemonic viewpoint of the working class as being unproductive and unanchored because they would actively question it. This is something that, although we wanted our audience to question the representation, in our audience feedback they didn't really question the stereotypes or what could have been seen as a hegemonic reading as much as we'd thought. Therefore, we could have had a better understanding of our audience and perhaps could have legitimately swapped our target audience to create a different achievement of personal identity because our sophisticated audience didn't question the stereotypes anyway. This low angle shot of Ethan shows his empowerment and connotes his dominant ideologies about today's youth. They see themselves as powerful, independent, and as a challenge to authority. This over-the-shoulder shot connotes the father's inability to detach himself from alcohol, while the oversaturated lighting connotes his fragmented relationship with his son and the inevitability of repairing it. This supports the stereotypical ideology that working-class people often have associations with drugs. This shot begins with an awkward medium shot of Ethan, which suggests a sense of discomfort and therefore connotes the austere relationship between him and his father. Although, with his back to the camera, it suggests how he does not fit in with the social class and feels marginalised from society. Therefore, this is a challenging stereotypical representation that our sophisticated audience will appreciate. Furthermore, the very long shot of Ethan walking down the stairs connotes the ideologies of unity that he is irrevocably excluded from, and Ethan's distance from the corporate world. Thus, it could be argued that we undermine this and therefore challenge representations of the corporate class by showing him lose control, which targets a sophisticated audience who challenge dominant ideologies but possibly isolating them in terms of personal identity. The absence of his face also suggests his neglect from his father, while reiterating how he has left his past and seeks for a new beginning. This challenges the stereotypical ideology that working class people are perhaps weak and lack inner drive to succeed. The transition between the medium close-up of Ethan and the businessman suggests his vulnerability and the lowest status Ethan has. The long shot of the man connotes his power and his busy life, that is saturated by important problems. This suggests a stereotypical ideology that people in the high class are only able to have a more authoritative status. The fact that he is a white male highlights the ongoing issues of gender equality and racism, despite the revolution of black people's contribution to society. The exploration of these wider social issues will appeal to our sophisticated audience. The absence of any fluidity from fades or dissolves emphasises the distance and broken relationship Ethan has with his family members. The use of flashbacks complicates the narrative timeline and subsequently caters for a sophisticated audience who enjoy being challenged. The tracking in on the parents arguing connotes how the situation is emotional and upsetting for Ethan, which contributes further to the stereotype that the working class have a corrupt family home. The arrival of the text also connotes anger and violence in the household. This is something of which our intellectual target audience could question. The close-up highlights Ethan's feelings of determination and therefore could give the audience personal identity. The shot also emphasises his hooded jacket, which acts as a further representation of a reckless and violent youth within the working class, as it is used to represent gang culture. It also connotes that the character is shady and dangerous as they are attempting to conceal themselves from society. This could intrigue our audience and cause them to want to watch the rest of the film. This is one of the examples where it could be argued that we were a bit too stereotypical, which could have not appealed to our sophisticated audience. The use of natural lighting in this kitchen, with the colour correction of a slightly blue tinge, emphasises the conventions of the genre. This also heightens the verisimilitude. However, the connotations of the lighting are at odds with the cosy mise-en-scène. This purposeful and uncomfortable juxtaposition makes the viewer feel awkward and sympathetic for Ethan due to the personal identity felt. However, the presence of this positive tone connotes hope for Ethan, corresponding to the letter, possibly foreshadowing a brighter future in finding his dad, as opposed to his gloomy life at present. The appearance of the title at the end builds the enigma which satisfies the audience's genre, i.e., their intellectual pleasure, and also connotes the unpredictability of the situation with Ethan about to find his father. Additionally, the woman erasing the title connotes the insignificance of the individuals, which is Ethan's life in big sprawling urban communities. Our production begins with the diegetic sound of a busy urban environment with the sounds of many people, which could perhaps suggest how it is overcrowded and uncomfortable, which connotes the working class as it represents stereotypical ideologies that people in the working class live in these crowded and less spatial environments. This sound also connotes how the working class are hard-working, directly linked to Ethan with his ambitious and determined aims to find his father. Furthermore, the diegetic sound of the train tracks refers to the train station he is at. Therefore, this further emphasises the metaphor of the journey for Ethan. The idea of him going on this train connotes his detachment from his miserable and isolated life, leaving it for a new, possibly hopeful time where he discovers his father. This metaphor also leaves the production rather ambiguous, and thus adheres to the conventions of our genre, possibly having an absence of a new equilibrium. In addition, our own non-diegetic melodic score begins when the first flashback is shown. Our original idea was mainly to include an ambient sounding piece which mainly focuses on and connotes the isolation of Ethan, which satisfies our audience who said they preferred our production to explore this particular theme in our questionnaire in research and planning. The quiet sound obviously illuminates the need for ambient sound, highlighting Ethan's desolation, but it also connotes Ethan's sadness and his unfortunate inevitability of finding his father or any hope. This therefore creates sympathy for Ethan as it emphasises the overall bleak tone, which is a typical convention for our genre. Having produced the piece by ourselves, it also fits the naturalistic mood of the film and will heighten the level of verisimilitude. The diegetic dialogue of Nick, the businessman, shouting on the phone, connotes his busy and demanding life, which fills him with many stressful problems due to his authoritative role. This aggressively spoken dialogue links back to Ethan's vividly violent childhood, triggering a flashback of the parents arguing. This juxtaposition between Ethan's silence and Nick's shouting highlights a difference in class, representing a stereotypical viewpoint that people in the working class have less things to worry about with a less stressful job. Furthermore, the diegetic sound of the parents shouting and the door slamming connotes Ethan's neglect and poses the reasons as to why he is in a foster home, familiarising the audience with the narrative. This sound also establishes the audience with the social class, because it reflects a stereotypical representation that people in the working class have an unsteady home environment. Finally, our non-diegetic melodic score fades out in the last shot to connote the problems of Ethan's to be insignificant in large cities. It also shows the absence of a new equilibrium, as Ethan may not ever find his father until his determination starts to deteriorate.